Today, I'm going to provide you all with the ultimate marathon beginner's guide. My goal by the end of this video is to well equip you so that once we drop into Tau Ceti 4, we will feel confident for the most part and we will be ready to get after it. If there is something I did not cover in this video and you all want me to cover, be sure to comment those things down below as well. And lastly, before we kick things off, who is this video for? Again, for beginners, people that are brand new to the extraction shooter sphere, people that are somewhat new to the extraction shooter genre, meaning they've played a game or two, whether if that be Arc Raiders or Delta Force or something along the lines of that, but they are green to the marathon sphere, and possibly my extraction shooter veterans. You all may be able to get a few tidbits here and there from this respective video. So with all of that out of the way, let's talk about what marathon even is. So if you were unaware, marathon is a PvPvE extraction shooter. If you are unfamiliar with what an extraction shooter is, I want you to think of it like a heist, for example. You go in with the kit, you'll loot and complete certain objectives, and then you're going to try to extract. So again, using the heist analogy, you go into the bank, you rob the bank and do whatever else you want to do there, and then you try to make it out in one piece without the police getting you. Now, if you successfully extract, you get to keep everything that you looted and you get to maintain all your progress. Now, if you get put down and you do not successfully extract, you lose everything that you went in with. So survival is going to be your win condition here. And as alluded to earlier, the PvE means that the world environment and the AI combatants can put you down. But they are not your only threat. Other players on the map are trying to do the same thing that you're doing, and they are an obvious threat too. So to summarize it all, the goal is to infill, is to loot, is to complete contracts. And in the midst of that, you can fight or you can avoid fights in totality, successfully extract, upgrade your kit and or your runner, rinse and repeat. So in this type of game, every decision you make will be risk versus reward, with a ton of room for error or a ton of room for success. That's all dependent upon you. Now, slightly shifting gears here, I want to talk about your character in this game. Your character will be known as a runner shell, all right? Now, at the time of recording this, we are actually wrapping up the Marathon Server Slam, which is pretty much like a beta test, literally the weekend before the game actually releases. As a matter of a fact, I only got about 30 minutes left before the Server Slam shuts down, so I need to really get on it here a little bit. But again, talking about the shells, as of right now, at the time of release, we will have a total of 7 shells, of which you have Destroyer, you have Vandal, you have Recon, you have Assassin, you have Triage. Locked for the Server Slam is Thief, and then last but not least, you have Rook, which is a bit of a special case scenario. Or not scenario, but just a special case. Now, if you've ever played a class-based shooter like an Overwatch or an Apex Legends or anything like that, you'll have a good idea of how these runners operate. They all have their own respective abilities, their own distinct look, and depending upon your playstyle, different utilization cases. Also, when it comes to the classes also known as runners in Marathon, it goes so in depth to the point where each runner shell has their own respective stats. So for example, looking at Destroyer, you'll see Destroyer has 35 heat capacity, 10 agility, 45 loot speed, so on and so forth by default, and all of these can be spec'd into by applying certain cores, implants, and things of that nature. Also, I won't go too in depth in regard to the stats here in this video. That would possibly be a little bit overwhelming, and I don't want to do that here. Do know that once you're in game, you can hover over each respective stat to see exactly what it does, and if requested, I will do a further breakdown in regard to the stats that may be the best to spec into, which ones you don't have to worry about, so on and so forth, just to give further clarity. Now, with that all being said, let's briefly talk more about each respective runner. And kind of a quick sidebar, I want you all to know too, something I did not mention was that his base heat capacity is not 35. As you'll see, it's a breakdown. His base is actually 15, but based off of the upgrades I got through progression, it actually boosted up to about 35 there. So that's something to keep in mind and something we'll talk about here as well. Now, real quick, just talking about each respective runner shell here. Starting with Destroyer, you'll see Destroyer's abilities and his traits. His prime ability, which is his ultimate ability, allows for him to shoot shoulder-mounted missile pods. So as you have sustained gunfire, you can actually fire missiles that will do a ton of damage, especially to the AI combatants. Is really good there. You have his tactical ability, Riot Barricade, which allows for him to pull up this nice body-sized arm shield that he can step back into cover, protect a teammate, so on and so forth with. His traits, he has thruster, which allows for him to boost to the left, to the right, forward, backward, depending upon the direction you're going. And then he also has tactical sprint, which is where you double press sprint and you can move faster, but it's at the cost of generating additional heat here. All right, so Destroyer is going to be your tank guy. He's going to be the individual that is always going to draw probably the most aggro, but also he can do a lot of DPS and he can clear out the opposition in a pretty smooth fashion. He also can maneuver, so if you are in a PvP engagement, you can get in and out however you see fit. But he's pretty distinct and he kind of feels like a large target, so just keep that in mind, all right? Talking about Vandal here, Vandal is going to be for all of my movement warlords, all right? So Vandal's entire kit is as follows. Vandal has Amplify, which is where they can overcharge their movement systems. It reduces the heat generated, the movement speed is increased, the weapon dexterity, all that good stuff. Disrupt Cannon, which transforms Vandal's arm into a cannon. The longer you hold it down, the more powerful the blast will be, which is pretty cool. Vandal's traits are microjets, which gives you pretty much a double jump. It just causes you to generate additional heat. And then you have power slide, which is where you get this super long slide that you can utilize to get in and out of cover. And again, Vandal is going to be that character that if you are a big movement individual, if you are somebody that wants the ability to entry frag, get in, but also be able to get out at a moment's notice, Vandal is going to be your shell. Following Vandal, we have Recon right here. So Recon is exactly as stated, Recon. Recon's prime ability is Echo Pulse, which is where Recon opens up its little visor right here, and it pulses everything in front of it, and it will reveal where the enemy opposition could be. Now, these can be AI bots or these could be other players, so do keep that in mind. The tracker drone, which is actually pretty nice. Recon throws it like a grenade, and it will track down a nearby hostile, and it will explode and potentially overheat that individual, and it's really, really nice for finding people and tracking them. Recon has the trait Interrogation, which is when you ping a hostile runner, you automatically receive a warning in your shell's HUD, or excuse me, when you're pinged by a hostile runner, and then when you perform a finisher on a respective runner, it will ping the rest of their crew. So it's like a built-in UAV. And then also Stalker Protocol, which is when you break the opposition shield, it will leave behind a holographic trail for a short time, but do know the opposition can see the trail they are leaving behind, so they may be waiting for you to push them and fly them. I think Recon is really, really good for team play, but also really good for solos as well, especially when you are playing against a ton of assassin players. We'll talk about assassin here shortly. Recon is going to be the jam for that because you'll be able to sniff them out if they're ratting, if they're camping, if they're just sitting in the corner, whatever the case may be. Recon will be the one to find them, and for my support people, I think Recon will be a great pick for you. If you're playing with two hyenas, you find out where the opposition is, you let the hyenas eat, and you just come in for cleanup duty, you know? Now let's talk about Assassin. Assassin is somewhat, not necessarily synonymous with Vandal, but those type of players that like to get in and get out, entry frag, be aggressive in their own merit, Assassin is more so that jam, right? And I'm going to explain why here. So Assassin's prime ability is known as Smoke Screen. This is when Assassin will throw a line of smoke discs that will emit these smoke fields, and it will disrupt the optics of the opposition there. So pretty much think about, if you played Apex Legends, Bangalore smoke ×3 or something along the lines of that, right? Active Camo is its tactical ability. It will make Assassin invisible, completely invisible. And don't quote me on this, but I believe when Assassin is not moving, you definitely can't tell where it is at. But the moment it starts moving, you can kind of see Assassin's silhouette. And whenever you take offensive actions, like you shoot your gun, you take damage, you use abilities or anything of that nature, it will disrupt your invis, so keep that in mind. Shadow Dive is one of Assassin's traits where when you hold whatever button is bound to, while you're in the air, you can slam to the ground, you'll pop a smoke disc, and you won't take any fall damage, which is pretty cool. And then you have Shroud. This is when your shell will automatically activate a camo system when you enter any smoke field at all, making you invisible. And don't quote me on this, but I believe even when you pop a smoke grenade and you go into the smoke, you can be invis, so it can be kind of OD. And it will persist for a bit even once you leave that smoke field, but not for a crazy long period of time. So again, Assassin's going to be for that individual that wants to open up a fight or that wants to move to the sound of his own bell or his own horn. I can't remember what that analogy is or what that saying is, but Assassin is going to be really great for the player that wants to flank or that wants to open up or that wants to rotate or whatever the case may be. Assassin is going to be awesome for it. And with mods and with the implants, you can really spec into his kit, which makes him even more ridiculous. Following Assassin, we have Triage. Triage is your traditional medic, but not traditional medic. And I'm going to further explain why here shortly. So Triage's abilities, His prime ability is Reboot. And by the way, if I haven't mentioned it, prime abilities are like ultimate abilities. I don't think I mentioned that, and I apologize, but your prime ability will be like your ultimate. It's the best thing each respective runner shell can do, all right? So Triage is ultimate, or his prime ability is Reboot Plus. It's when you press the button to ready your shell's emergency defib system. Once you hold your click, whether if it's, you know, R2 on controller or left click on mouse, you'll have this charge up moment and you'll be able to lock onto your down crewed member. Once it's fully charged and you let go, he'll shoot these tentacles that will revitalize your teammate, and you can revive them at an instant, even from a fully eliminated state. And if there are any hostiles nearby, it will act as an EMP and cause a lot of disruption there. So it can be really, really good. And something that's cool is when your teammate gets fully eliminated, their body is locked for about 20 seconds. Triage is the only runner that can override that using this Reboot Plus system. Triage's tactical ability, Med Drone, you throw this cute little robot that can just hover and hang around yourself or your respective teammates, and it will restore health and or recharge shields. Along that, if your teammate is in the down but not out state, then the Med Drone can actually keep them alive and keep them from having their meter run out, which is kind of cool. Triage's first trait is Shareware.exe, which is when your benefits that you get from medical consumables are shared between crew members with the Med Drone attached to them. So if I gave one of my teammates, one of my little Med Drone buddies, and I started to pop heals, then my teammate will get the benefit of that. And this could be super, super, super powerful, especially when you are operating as a well-coordinated squad. Man, oh man, this is nice. And also, his second trait is Battery Overcharge. This is when you divert energy from your cooling systems to boost the performance of your weapons, but it does cause you to generate more heat here. And when it's active, when you break a target shield with a vault weapon, it actually EMPs them. So nice little fun fact there, and it can be really, really useful to synergize with the vault weaponry. So Triage is going to be that ultimate support character. I actually play Triage in a little bit more of an aggressive fashion where I throw hands there with my teammates, but also I try to be cognizant enough to not go down. I actually let my teammates be the ones to go down first because I can get them back in the fight quicker, if that makes any sense. So I'm not necessarily baiting them, but I'm just playing off of them in more of an aggressive fashion. Maybe it's baiting them a little bit, maybe it isn't, but I digress there. Now, the runner that is locked and I don't even have the ability to click on is known as Thief. Even though we can't see Thief's abilities, I got them listed right here. Thief's prime ability is Pickpocket Drone. This is when you deploy a remotely piloted flying drone that does have a limited lifespan. You can fire a hooked tether that can eject the highest value item from a target inventory, and you can collect it, you can store the loose loot, and you can even open doors with this drone. So imagine you're fighting a team and you want to get on their nerves, pop your drone. You can knock their item out, you can take their item, and you can bring it back to you and pocket it, and you can leave from there, or you could just piss somebody off. The choice is yours. Also, you have the opportunity to jump into your drone and jump out of your drone whenever you see fit. Thief's tactical ability is actually a grapple device, which is where Thief can shoot a grapple in any direction that they choose, which will propel themselves towards it. So think about Strand from Destiny 2 or Pathfinder's grapple from Apex Legends, something along the lines of that. Thief also has two traits. Thief's first trait is X-Ray Visor, which is when Thief can activate their visor. They can highlight hostiles and containers in the color of the most valuable item they are storing. The containers are revealed through walls, while hostiles require line of sight. And while active, when you aim at a hostile for a short time, it does hack their optics and it can disrupt their vision until you look away from them. So super powerful in the right hands. And then the second trait is the Finer Things. This is when you gain increased weapon handling and accelerated grapple device recharge rate based on the number of items in your backpack. So if you are a loot goblin like myself, Thief could definitely be best in your hands. And Thief is a little bit of a jack of all trades if you cannot tell. Also, Thief will have an incredibly high skill ceiling, so if you are somebody that is really interested in learning a character that may be tough to start but will pay off down the road, Thief may be your runner. Now, following Thief, I would be remiss if I didn't mention Rook. Now, I mentioned Rook was a bit of a special case, and this holds true. So as you see, Rook only has two abilities and or traits. Rook has Signal Mask, which allows for Rook to activate a temporary hollow display mask to deceive UESC forces, and it makes them unaware of your presence. Now, when you sprint or take damage, it will disrupt the mask. You got to wait for the mask to come back. And then Recuperation is its prime ability, and this is when you can slowly restore health, but it's interrupted when you take damage. All right. Now, Rook is more of your scav from Escape from Tarkov, meaning you'll go into a raid in progress when you use Rook. You can only go in as a solo and you only queue into trio lobbies, all right? Rook is meant for you to get on the map, try to sneak around, acquire whatever loot you want to acquire or as much loot as you want to acquire, and then try to sneak off the map. Rook will be given a generic kit to start with, and Rook's ability to throw hands against full squads will not really be that high unless you are just a cracked out high skill player. But Rook is really important to the ecosystem because if you are down bad, you run out of money, whatever the case may be, a singular Rook run could be the very thing to get you back in the mix with money, with ammo, with weapons, with heals, so on and so forth. Now that we went ahead and we covered everything runners, let's talk about items. And when I'm talking items, I'm talking about everything. So I'll show you all my vault as an example. Full transparency, you'll see my vault look a bit anemic because I've been just running through kits left and right because the server slam, honestly, at the time of recording this portion of the video, has concluded. So I don't know how much longer I will be able to stay in these servers, but hey, look, we're going to do what we can. First things first, we have your weapons, right? And quick little sidebar, you'll see these filter types, which is really useful when you are building out your loadout. But getting back on track here, you have your weapons. There are a myriad of weapons from precision rifles to assault rifles, SMGs, pistols, you name it, right? And there are 4 ammo types. You have your light round weapons, your heavy round weapons, your MIPS round weapons, and then you also have your Volt battery weapons here, all right? Don't quote me, but I believe there will be 28 weapons at launch with opportunity for them to add weapons as often as they see fit. Quick little sidebar slash tidbit, out in the wild, you will see light rounds often and you will see Volt batteries often. If you are to take in any weapon with heavy rounds or with MIPS rounds, do know you will find those rarely while you are out in the wild. Now you can, but again, it's going to be in an instance that does not happen often, so keep that in mind. Following weapons, we have consumables. Your consumables are like your heals, which you all will see. I don't have any heals in my vault right now, but also, there are certain consumables that will give you buffs and debuffs. For example, this energy amp right here, it will improve your prime and tactical ability recharge rates for a bit of time. You have things like the mechanics kit, which will remove hazardous mechanical status effects like frost, immobilize, overheating, toxin, so on and so forth. You have signal jammers, which temporarily scrambles your visual profile and it obscures appearance to hostile runners, UESC, and various sensors. So there are a ton of consumables that you can utilize and you can bring into respective runs with you. As a matter of fact, there are things like this antivirus pack that you need to have equipped and you need to use to access certain areas. So consumables are pretty cool and they are not just limited to your traditional heals. Following consumables, you have your equipment, also known in some cases as like your throwables. But the reason why they label it equipment is because it's more than just your throwables. So you have your grenade variations, of which you all do not see because I've burned through them all. All you all see is this claymore right here, and then also you see ammo crates. Ammo crates is a prime example as to why they label it equipment and not necessarily just throwables or grenades, because ammo crates will save your life when you are running out of ammo. You're shooting all the AI on the map, you get into a few PvP engagements and they don't have any ammo to restock you, you got your ammo crates here, right? So again, equipment is pretty fleshed out here in that regard. You have, I think, 3 different tiers of ammo crates and a bunch of different throwables. Of course, we already talked about ammo when we talked about weapons, so won't harp on ammunition too long. You'll see they all stack, so your light round stack, I think, in 80. Your heavy rounds typically stack in stacks of 60. MIPS rounds stack in stacks of 15, if I'm not mistaken, and then Volt batteries stack in stacks of 3. Now, after ammunition, we'll talk about mods here, okay? So mods are these equipables that you can put on your weapons, and when it comes to standard mods, such as like optic mods, as you'll see here, like the clear-eyed lenses, the magazine mods, those are pretty much standard in majority of games. But the thing that really makes Marathon is the chip mods, right? The chip mods will give your weapons extra flair. So for example, you'll see Sucker Punch right here, moderately increases the damage of your next melee attack after dealing damage with this weapon. So my Destiny players, this is like 1-2 punch. I have Rorschach, I can't even read that, but while surrounded by hostiles, reloading overflows the magazine by a moderate amount, right? So these chip mods can all be applied to respective weaponry. I can't recall if there are any chip mods that are, didn't mean to grab that. If there are any chip mods that are exclusive to certain weaponry, I would assume probably at the higher rarities there are. But through my experience through the server slam, I pretty much only ran into like, common chip mods and these enhanced chip mods, also known as like uncommon, right? But again, these will start to lean into the build crafting aspect of Marathon. To further lean into the build crafting though, we have your implants. So implants are runner agnostic, which mean that they can be applied to pretty much any runner. And you'll see you have shield implants, which, protector V1 is like a green shield that gives you 2 bars of shield. V2 would be blue, and then V3 is purple. It gives you, purple gives you the 4 bars, the blue gives you 3 bars, and this V1 gives you 2 bars. I want to say there is a V4 that is prestige or yellow, also known as like exotic. I don't know what the benefits of that would be, so that's yet to be determined, and I have not seen one out in the wild, so I can't tell you too much about that, full transparency. And then also too, you have implants. So you'll see down here you have head implant right here, or excuse me, a head implant slot, a torso implant slot, and then a leg implant slot. So just a demo, I'm just showing you all the torso ones. So you'll see like hurting hands right here. My finisher siphon is increased by 15 points. And then I have a survival kit, which literally gives me a little bit of a boost for everything. Self-repair speed, revive, hardware, firewall, and ping duration there. So again, this is where the build crafting aspect really comes into play. You find implants that synergize with one another, and you are off to the races. Now, slightly piggybacking off of the implants, we have our cores, and you'll see I just have 2 generic cores. If I was thinking about making this video prior to burning through everything I had, I would have just stockpiled everything, but obviously your boy wasn't thinking, so this is what we got to work with. All right, now these can be runner agnostic, but at the same time, these can be specific to each respective runner shell as well. So there are cores that I found out in the wild that were specific to destroyer, to triage, to thief, to assassin. Like literally every single runner with the exception of rook can have a specific core that can boost their abilities in some capacity, or that can just spec into that respective runner. So you'll recognize that cores are a bit more niche in regard to build crafting. They're not as general as the implants are, but that's all good. So like using this core, for example, defeating hostiles with ballistic weapons reduces the duration of your active MCH status effects. So the MCH status effects are the things that we've seen earlier, like toxins or frost or anything like that. You can reduce the duration of those things just by defeating hostiles with ballistic weapons. On the other side, defeating hostiles with vault weapons reduces the duration of your active OS status effect. So like if you were EMP'd or hacked or anything like that, it will reduce the duration of those effects on you. And then this core, defeating a UESC commander, grants tactical and prime ability energy. So if you are fighting one of those big bads out there in the wild, you knock them down, then you will have improved and increased ability energy for a bit of time. So again, when it comes to the mods, the implants, and the cores, that is really where the build crafting will take place in Marathon. And trust me when I say they are not limited. The build crafting is not limited in any capacity here, Slightly switching gears, talking about salvage. Now, salvage is really interesting here, right? So salvage is, or I should say, salvage items are items that you can exfil from a raid with and be able to keep in your stash, and they have multiple usages, okay? So of course you can just sell them, right? That's one use. You could just, exfil with it and then hold down F if you're on keyboard and mouse and just sell it, right? But I would encourage you to not do that. Reason being is because, or I should say one of the reasons is because you can use them as a barter tool. So when you go over to Armory, you'll see up top barter wares for each respective faction, and those items you exfil with can be bartered for items. So let's say you run out of money and you kind of broke like your boy is right here, and I needed to get some shield chargers. I could trade 3 unstable diodes for 1 shield charger right here. If I needed light rounds, I can trade 2 unstable gunmetal and be able to get those light rounds. And again, each respective faction has a barter system implemented so that you can go ahead and you can barter whatever you want, whatever you exfilled with. And the better the item you exfil with, more than likely the better the item is that you can acquire. So for example, if you were to exfil with this alien alloy, just one of them, and I would assume these are probably really hard to get, you would be able to barter it with Vulcan to, or not Vulcan, but Traxxas, I should say, to be able to acquire this superior bully SMG. So that's one good usage of these respective salvage items. Something else you can do is you can spec into your upgrade tree with these bartered items. So for example, if I wanted to expand my inventory another 8 rows right here, I could trade 4,000 credits. I could trade 22 unstable diode and 12 unstable gunmetal to be able to acquire 8 more rows, not 8 slots, but 8 more rows to my vault size, you know? And that really would be nice for your boy because I am a loot goblin. So salvage being multi-purposeful makes it that much more valuable. And quick little sidebar or a little tidbit, if you want to figure out what salvage you need, so let's say for example, you are me and you want to upgrade or expand your overall inventory, you're like, man, when I'm out in the wild, I just don't pay enough attention, man, to unstable diode and unstable gunmetal. What you can do is you can just press R on your mouse or keyboard or whatever it is on controller, and you'll be able to track your credits, unstable diode, and unstable gunmetal. So whenever you find those items out in the wild, it will show in this upper right hand corner. Oh, yep, you'll see it right here. In this upper right hand corner, there will be that eye letting you know, hey, look, this is an item you were looking for. You might want to put it in your inventory because you want to upgrade that inventory space. You see what I'm saying? So again, salvage is really darn important when it comes to Marathon. And then lastly, we have sponsor kits, of which you see I don't have any sponsor kits in my inventory. Full transparency, I think it's a little silly just to have them sitting in your vault unless there is an enhanced sponsored kit or something along the lines of that you want, because if I'm not mistaken, all 3 of these kits cycle every single day. I know the free one does for sure, but I did not pay too much attention to the enhanced sponsor kits. So it's new caloric today, and then the encrypted one is just encrypted. I guess that's what it is. Maybe you want to buy them and just store them in your vault for a rainy day. If so, all good. I didn't really see the value in that. To me, I'm like, that's just going to take away vault space from things I know I really want. But maybe it is the wave and it is the meta and I just haven't discovered it yet. That could very well be the case. Yo, what's going on? Editor Cray here real quick. Just wanted to let you all know that as I was wrapping up that item section, I actually got kicked from the Marathon Server Slam servers because the Server Slam, of course, has concluded. So everything beyond this will be more of a voiceover with the B-roll in the background, so on and so forth. Just wanted to share that with you all so you all could understand why the vibe of the beginner's guide slightly shifted a bit, but of course, you know your boy's still gonna make sure it upholds the highest quality possible. So just wanted to put that disclaimer out there. Let's continue. Now that we've already covered the runners and we talked about items, let's talk about progression here, okay? So when it comes to progression, your early goal is not to max out how much loot you can acquire, right? We don't want to solely focus on maxing out our vault. We want to focus on consistent progression, all right? Now you may ask, Cray, where does this progression come from? This progression is, of course, going to start with the factions. So each respective faction has a rank, all right? When you first unlock that respective faction, of course, you are at rank 1. Now, as you complete specific contracts for that faction, you will increase reputation with that respective faction. And once you increase the reputation so much, you'll actually level up to that next rank with that faction. And again, the best ways to increase that reputation will be to complete contracts, whether if it's a priority contract, which pushes the story forward, or if it's a standard contract, which is just a generic contract you can complete to still be able to get reputation for that faction. You can also do little things in your run, such as looting certain things, or like, for example, with the Arachne, when you eliminate a runner, you get faction reputation. You can do little things like that to nickel and dime your reputation upward, but the majority of it will be coming from contracts. Oh yeah, also, when you complete those priority contracts, you can get a myriad of various items. They can be weapons, equipment, mods, you name it. So completing contracts are, of course, really important. But the reason why I would say the contracts are the most important thing in regard to this progression will be ranking up your faction levels. Now, what this does is it gives you more access to each respective faction's upgrade tree. So if you are unaware, each faction has a varied upgrade tree that you'll have to use the salvage for, credits for, in order to unlock the respective node. And yo, these upgrade trees literally have anything and everything you can think of. If you want the opportunity opportunity to increase vault space, it's in the upgrade tree. If you want the opportunity to increase your overall heat capacity, it's in the upgrade tree. If you want the opportunity to purchase a bully SMG at the green or the blue rarity, it's in the upgrade tree. If you want to increase your runner's agility, it's in the upgrade tree, right? I can go on for 20 hours telling you all about what is in that upgrade tree. But to get the good stuff, right? Everything in the upgrade tree is pretty solid, but to get the stuff that I know you and I really want, you need to increase your overall faction level. So when we put this more into the realm of context here, when we think about the overall gameplay loop, we select our contract, and let's use Cyber Acme as an example because that is the first faction you get access to. So you select that priority contract or that standard contract, you jump into a raid, you complete the contract, you come out, you level up Cyber Acme, you see, oh man, there is this node to increase my heat capacity, but I need 3,000 credits and I need 10 of this certain item. So what do? You can grab another contract, you can track that specific node so you'll see which item you need once you jump into your next raid. You'll go into that next raid, you'll knock out that contract, but keep your head on the swivel for that specific item. Once you find that item, it will be highlighted for you. In that upper right hand corner, you'll see that little neon eye icon. You'll prioritize that item into your backpack, and now you have greater stakes to make it out in one piece. Once you successfully exfil, you can submit that contract. You can unlock that node by paying the credits and giving over the respective items. And now you got whatever buff you want unlocked. And guess what? Now that you have unlocked another buff, in theory, your raids moving forward should all get a smidge easier, or at least be a bit more fulfilling because you can slide more, jump more, run more, etc. And of course, as you're doing all of this, you are finding new mods, you are finding new cores, new implants, and you're playing around with your build to see what build suits you the best for this run in particular, for the win condition that you want to accomplish. You have the opportunity to now move forward in the game however you see fit, and that's where I believe the magic of Marathon really starts to show itself. You get to cultivate a build that you really want to test out, that you really want to rock with, to go out there to complete the contracts, to PvP, to acquire the items, for you to be able to apply those items to the upgrade tree so that your runner can only get better and better and better, and your experience can improve as a byproduct, because even if you get wiped, guess what? You now have the opportunity to purchase higher level gear or just acquire higher level gear in an entirety, which of course will increase your overall odds of survivability. Again, in theory, because guess what? Everybody else is doing the same thing, so it may not quite increase your odds, but you all are understanding what I'm saying here. Also, as a quick sidebar slash tidbit, whenever I came across a particular salvage item that I knew for a fact would be really useful beyond my upgrade tree, so in this instance, I knew that the unstable diodes would be really great as a barter item, I would track the unstable diodes so that no matter what, I would always prioritize them in a run, and every time I would exfil, I would save them and keep them stockpiled in my vault, so that even when I ran out of money, when I had no money on whatsoever, I could still get shield charges because I could barter those diodes. So in some cases, your primary objective or your win condition may be, hey, look, let me go into this particular raid, forget a contract, let me get as much of that particular item I'm looking for as possible, and let me make it out in one piece so I can stockpile it, so if things get funky in the future, I always have a means to barter and be able to get back on my feet. Now, let's talk about the Codex a little bit, and I wanted to talk about this because I believe no matter if you care about the lore and every little nuance of this game or not, it can still bear fruit for you. So full transparency, the Codex is super in depth. Like when I first clicked on it, I was overwhelmed at all the options and everything that was displayed in front of me. But the thing that was really cool is, as I was playing the game, I never once thought, hey, I need to do this thing to complete this entry in the Codex, but I would do it unbeknownst to me. And once I got out of raid, I can go check that box off in the Codex and it would give me stuff. Now, the things it give you can vary across the board. I unlocked certain skins for respective runners for maybe exfilling with a certain free kid or doing a particular thing in a raid that I didn't even know I would get rewarded for. And again, I would get skins, I would get weapon charms, I would get badges for my player card, you name it. There were actually a few instances that I received weapons and items, and I'll be honest, I didn't quite take the time to look and or read as to what I did to get those things, but I was getting them. And I'm like, hey, look, my motto is, If it's free, it's good for me, you know? So that's just something I want for you all to keep in mind, whether if you are intentionally trying to check off every box in the Codex or not. It can still be fruitful for you, and I think that's a win-win. Now, if you are a lore head, this would be great for you, because every time you do something in there, that Codex will update and it gives you everything in great detail. This could be anything from taking out a UESC commander and it will go ahead and update that log in the Codex. There's lore about POIs on respective maps. Like I was reading one about the North Relay on Perimeter as to why we think they built that relay and what it may have been for, so there's some speculation there. And I was actually intrigued. And it made me feel like, man, maybe I need to spend a day and just go through all these Codex logs and just kind of see what's going on. Maybe it will give me the opportunity to fill some gaps from a narrative/lore standpoint. So all in all, when it comes to the Codex, don't sleep on it. Now that we went ahead and covered runners, we talked about items, we talked about progression, Codex, all that good stuff, I want to talk about maps a little bit, at least maps here at launch. So at the launch of Marathon, we're going to have 3 to 4 maps, and I'll tell you why I say 3 to 4 maps here shortly, all right? Starting with Perimeter. Think about Perimeter as the beginner map, right? There's even a beginner variant of the Perimeter map that you have access to until I think level 5 or level 6. Perimeter is the starter map. It's going to be the map that plays a little bit slower from a PvP standpoint. There's a huge divider in the middle of the map, but you may find yourself in 1 to 2 PvP engagements throughout your respective run. The second map is Dire Marsh. Dire Marsh is going to be a lot more PvP centric, at least through my own personal experience. And on this map, there are a lot of buildings, but yet a lot of trees and high level grass. And it's typically always raining and there's the anomaly there. You're going to find yourself again in a lot of PvP engagements. I would say probably 2 to 3 per run, as well as a lot of PvE action in the mix. Throughout my time playing, there were a lot of instances where I never had a clean PvP fight. The AI would always third party, or vice versa. Of course, greater risk equals greater reward. You'll find better rewards and better loot there in comparison to Perimeter, at least. Maybe that's a bit subjective, but that was my experience. Now, Outpost, that was a map that nobody had access to in the server slam. I know people that have played through the play tests building up to the release of Marathon. Some of those individuals did get to experience Outpost. We were able to see it showcased by a streamer named The Burnt Peanut, and we recognized that map is going to allow for definitely some quality outside fights, but a lot of CQC, which is close quarters combat, will be taking place on Outpost. There's this giant building in the middle of the map called the Pinwheel that is almost like a labyrinth that you will have a lot of those CQC engagements in, and it does really seem like it is going to be a high risk, high reward type of map. Now, the fourth map that will be coming out once Season 1 releases, and by the way, the big reason I said 3 to 4 maps is because we don't know when Season 1 will release. We don't know if that comes right at launch or a few weeks after launch. So that's why I put an asterisk next to this map. But the fourth map is the Cryo Archive. This is a map that only people in some of the playtests got to experience, in some capacity at least. But this was way back when. This may have been over a year ago since a lot of those individuals got to check it out, so I'm sure a lot of stuff has changed. And Bungie has been really tight-lipped about this map, other than it takes place on the actual Marathon ship, and that this is going to be the map that's going to be the bread and butter when it comes to endgame. So expect heavy PvP engagement, expect there to be a huge PvE presence as well, and do not expect to live. If you find a way to live and pull it off, then you probably shouldn't even be watching this guide, unless this guide helped you out that much that you became that cracked. And if that's the case, then hey, look, I just want my 1%, that's all. Now, something I want to encourage as we all experience these maps is I want to encourage you all to learn the maps, and learn the maps as quickly as you can. I would say the best way for you to learn and understand these maps as quickly as possible will be to first and foremost learn the landmarks or the POIs. Feel those out, learn the ins and outs, so that way you always have an escape route planned, you have a flank route planned if you are in a PvP engagement, so on and so forth. Following that, I would say it's important for us to learn rotations, so know when it is time to leave a POI or when it's time to pull up to a POI. In the process, you'll start to understand and feel the vibe of the in-between spaces, so you know how to navigate those accordingly. And then the third thing would be routes to extractions. So we know that extraction points can pop up literally randomly in respective POIs. One may be guarded, one may be just a traditional exfil, but it's good to have an idea as to where they may or may not pop up at, so you all will know how to navigate your rotation to that exfil to get off the map. I would say try to consistently run the same map or two as much as possible and try to engage with the same POIs as much as possible early on to get the utmost understanding of them before focusing on other POIs or other maps. So it gives you the opportunity to really hone in and concentrate on like one thing at a time, learn it like the back of your hand and then move on. And again, this is going to be really helpful for us so that we have our escape routes planned, we have our flank routes planned. If we're fighting, we know how to, again, engage, disengage, so on and so forth. Now that we got that all out of the way, it's time for us to talk about stuff between the years. We're going to talk about game planning and all that good stuff here, all right? So I have a simple 4-step plan that I would like for you all to follow. Step number 1, and this actually happens before you queue into a raid, this would be to set a win condition. Now, if you don't know what a win condition is, a win condition is you setting the top 1 to 2 things you want to accomplish in that raid. And once you accomplish that thing, the gamble is over and you start making your way to the closest exfil. These win conditions can be literally anything you choose. It can be completing a contract, it could be solving a puzzle or doing some type of event on the map. It could be that you're just on a regain and you just want to go find those salvageable items or high ticket items that you know you could sell for currency, or it can be just a PvP until your heart's content. It literally can be whatever you choose. Following that, step 2 is to stabilize. This is going to take place within your first few minutes of the raid. During this time, you're going to scope the environment. We're going to find out where we are, where the opposition could be. It might add a big POI that an enemy team could be rotating into. If so, where might they rotate in from? And then also figuring out what will be the most efficient route to you accomplishing that respective win condition. During this time, I would only focus on grabbing the basics if you want them, whether if that's heals on the map, whether if it's ammunition or it's high value or salvageable items that you find as you are moving to that respective win condition. But outside of that, I would keep moving and grooving. And if possible, I wouldn't focus so much on taking an early drawn out fight. Now, if there is a fight that you can take that you know you can clean up real quick without burning through all your heals and ammunition, then by all means use your own personal judgment. But if there is a fight that just feels like you guys are doing a heal off, you guys keep trading one another, then I would take the time to possibly disengage, because you don't want to go through the remainder of your raid completely limited, no ammo, no heals, and things of that nature, because that just isn't fun and that will probably upset you more than it would be satisfying. Now, step number 3 would just be execution. It would be to make sure you're doing everything in your power to make that win condition a success. So you're already traversing to the area that you need to be in order to accomplish that thing, whether if it's a contract, an event, again, it could be anything you choose. And during this time, if a fight breaks out, you have to ask yourself the question, is this fight even worth my time, or is this just going to be a trap where I have high risk but low reward from it? If it's a fight you have no choice but to take, then of course you got to throw hands, defend yourself so you can be able to make it out of that fight in one piece and execute step number 4, which of course is to exfil safely. Remember, after our win condition has been completed, we want to start making that move towards that respective exfil. We don't need to be lollygagging around. We don't want to get greedy and search another POI or anything like that. If it was a not high stakes, but if it was a really difficult contract and you got it done and you need to successfully exfil to complete it, again, get your butt to that exfil. Or if you all did some event and got some quality loot from it, get your butt to that exfil and get off of the map. If you follow those 4 steps as closely as you possibly can, then most of your raids should go smooth, unless, of course, things don't go according to plan. And I'm going to be totally honest, in extraction shooters, a lot of times things don't go according to plan. But focus on those win conditions, try to execute so that you can check off the win condition, and then do your best to get off of the map. Now, I know I just spent all this time talking about this 4-step raid plan and everything, but you're probably asking yourself, Cray, what do I even take in? Like how should I even navigate this? Especially if you don't want to risk everything and put yourself in a position to where you go for broke. Don't worry, I got you here, all right? I have a simple, let's call it a 4-kit system that you can follow, and I have parameters. So the first kit will be running a free kit. Now, like I shown earlier in this video, every single day, a faction will be providing us all with a free kit opportunity. These free kits are for zero pressure runs, okay? We're gonna use these to explore, to learn a new map, to figure out POIs, to figure out how to complete an event, and really to just get a feel for the loop, right? Like, I look at free kits as a bit of a warm-up thing as well. So once I jump in with that free kit, I'm trying to get into as many PvE or PvP engagements as possible, and I don't really care if I get put down or not. I'm just trying to get the hands warm, and I'm just trying to make sure that the mental is warm as well. The next kit is what I would call your budget kit. The budget kits are meant to be cheap but yet consistent. So these are going to be like a step above the free kit, and you're going to have the opportunity to deepen exploration a little bit, complete some contracts, and even be able to win a PvP engagement or two. The third kit I would reference would be the standard kit, and this is where you will live at most of the time. This is when you got, some greens and some blues equipped, maybe the occasional purple, but outside of rarity, you are using the weapons you are most comfortable and familiar with. The weapons that you know for a fact, not only will you be able to clean up the AI with, but you'll be able to really throw hands and hold your own ground in a PvP engagement as well. And it doesn't matter if the third party comes or not, regardless if it's from the AI or from other enemy players, you can still hold your ground and be able to turn the tables on them. And then the fourth kit, I'll say this will be your juice kit, right? This is the kit when you know you got the juice. This is when you're cooking, right? You're on fire, can't nobody stop you. You just got out of your last raid and you won 2 to 3 PvP engagements. You made some crazy plays and you are just you're just cooking right now. You're cooking with grease. Or let's say you end up on the Cryo Archive map, which is that in-game map, and there is some massive boss or some massive event that takes place there, and you need to be able to pull out all the stops. That is when you would bring in that respective juiced kit. Now, when it comes to building out your kits, there are some things I do want for you all to keep in mind. I want you all to prioritize survivability and, again, the things that you are most comfortable with. So make sure you bring in a plethora of ammo as well as heals. Also, don't sleep on the consumables, right? There are a lot of consumables that can be reliable, such as cardio kicks, if you are able to acquire some, or if you have the ability to purchase them, which that's a bit further down the upgrade tree as I'm sitting here thinking about it, but let's just say hypothetically you can purchase cardio kicks. Mechanic kits, which will help you alleviate certain status effects like toxin and things of that nature. Signal jammers, which make you a hard target to hit because you're blurry in the eyes of the opposition. And then when it comes to equipment, if you know you're going to get in multiple PvP engagements, like that's your intention, then having the proper throwables such as fletchet grenades, which I think are kind of underrated, frag grenades, smoke grenades if you need to get out of a funky situation, whatever you feel most comfortable with. This is where your creativity flows, and this is where you can apply that. Same thing goes with the cores and the implants here, by the way. And one of the last things I'll say about this all is do not risk your best kit until you can reliably play the loop on free and budget kits, okay? I know you want to use the latest and the greatest, but trust me, if you aren't physically or mentally warmed up to do so, or you don't have the greatest understanding of what's going on around you, then you're practically just a loop pinata waiting to get swung on. Now, I want to slightly switch gears here, and this section will be more so for my beautiful people that are somewhat brand new to extraction shooters in general. And we can just call this your first 10 raids on paper, or the first 10 raid plan. I don't know. You all are probably more creative than me, and you all can come up with a better name. But in this, I want to establish clear-cut goals for your first 10 raids. Now, your first 3 raids, all right, we'll call these exploration runs. And in these raids, you should be using solely free kits. Your goal here will be to explore the first map and learn the overall game feel to the best of your ability. So you're running around, you're sliding, you're jumping, you're shooting, you're getting a bit more of a better understanding in regard to the heat system, to the enemy types. You're learning POIs, sight lines, a few rotations here and there, you name it. And if you get put down by the AI or another enemy team, it's all good because your goal here is literally just to learn. Now, for the following few raids, let's say raids 4 through 7, we're going to start checking boxes here. We're going to start jumping in on those contracts, and we're going to start trying to progress our overall faction upgrade trees, okay? So this is where we start to set that win condition every raid, right? Am I going to knock out a contract? Am I going to try to get this particular salvage item? Am I going to take the time to get my feet wet in the PvP sphere? This is where, again, you make that choice, And after that win condition has been fulfilled, the objective is complete and it's time to mosey on up out of there. I would say in those respective raids, I probably wouldn't prioritize PvP. I probably would just keep it solely contract and or progression based, because the more progression you make early on, the better your PvP experiences will be long term. Now, when we're talking about raids 8 through 10, the goal here is intentional PvP, okay? It's time for us to throw them hands. In having this mindset shift, the goal is for you to go find a fight, and in going to find a fight, you will start to learn what to listen for. You'll listen for UESC soldiers, you'll look for birds flying in the sky, because if the enemy opposition runs close enough to a set of birds, they'll take off flying. You'll learn to listen for footstep cadence, and you'll be able to differentiate the footsteps of the UESC soldiers and actual enemy players. You'll listen for the gunfire cadence as well, because those are different. You'll start paying attention to all these nuanced details, and the more you pay attention to them, the more second nature it becomes, and the more you'll be able to find the distinction so that you can get the one up on the opposition. And again, you're going out and you are being the aggressor. You're not the one that is being the aggressee. And at the end of each respective raid, I want you to reflect, no matter if you won the gunfight, if you lost the gunfight, or if y'all decided to disengage. I want you to ask yourself as many questions as possible. Man, did I overextend? Is that why we lost that gunfight? Man, would it have been a better idea for me to go invis as assassin and try to reposition and or flank, get the high ground so we could have turned the tides of the fight into our favor? Man, I did a great job of winning that 1v2 or that 1v3 situation because I played cover and the opposition did not. Ask yourself those questions or make those statements internally, because the more you vocalize them, the more apt they are going to be to stick into your brain, and the more they'll layer themselves in your subconscious, and you'll be able to do these things like the back of your hand, second nature, without a ton of thought at all. After 10 raids, will you have a perfect understanding of everything? No, you won't, but you should have a greater understanding. Why? Because we went in with intent for 10 raids straight. So we should have some map familiarity, we should have some familiarity with the whole PvP loop, etc. Now, last but not least, I've been rambling for this video probably over the course of the last 28,000 hours, right? But I want to close this video out talking about beginner mistakes that will ruin you. So these are the things that we want to avoid to the best of our ability, okay? The first mistake we want to avoid is loot greed, right? Having the syndrome of, man, just one more crate, one more box, one more POI. We want to avoid that, because oftentimes when we go to that extra POI or that extra crate or that extra box, whether if it is AI or if it's another player, they usually get the upper hand on us. And the reason why this happens is because it's not your team going to that extra POI or that extra crate or that extra box, it's you. So you have disconnected from your squad, you have put yourself in a massive handicapped position, you get team shot, and then you get thirsted. Now your teammates are in a funky handicapped position. And you better hope to God it was not a recon, because if recon finishes you, then recon can scan where your other teammates are and they can be aggressive to go take out the rest of your squad. And if y'all got wiped on the way to the exfil because you wanted to check one more crate or one more POI, hey man, good luck with navigating that with your homies. Oof. Another mistake that I think we all sometimes fall succumb to is just fighting for way too long. When two teams are fighting and they are incredibly passive, meaning one team is holding one angle, the other team is holding another angle, there are no throwables, so you all just keep peek shotting one another. You know, you shoot them, they shoot you, y'all heal up, so you guys are back to square one. Rinse, repeat. They get a knock on y'all, y'all trade your teammate. Now you guys both back up to get a revive. 3 minutes has gone by of continual fire. That fight is lasting way too long. You got a choice to make. Either you have to play aggressive, you have to find another opening so that you all can conclude this fight as fast as possible, or you all have to disengage, because guess what? For you all to be firing for that long, there is going to be at least another team on the map that is hearing that gunfire, that will come and that will wait for the opportunity to third party. And guess what? Third party players, they aren't stupid. They'll be hiding in the bushes, waiting to see how it plays out. Once it plays out completely, whether if that's you win or you lose, you'll often more times than not see that team that put you down, or when you put them down, you'll see them get wiped off the map because the fight drew on for too long. And in Marathon, the PvE can third party as well. So if you all cleaned out the PvE combatants and you guys are fighting for a long time, they'll respawn in and they may be a headache, especially if a commander spawns, and don't let it be a grenadier. Man, that's just gonna ruin everything. So try to wrap up those fights as quick as possible. Use your abilities, use equipment, use whatever you can to get them off of the map. The next mistake I think we all make at some point in time is not exfilling soon enough. Sometimes we get really lucky and we complete that win condition within the first 5 to 7 minutes of a raid. That could be wiping out a team or two, that can be completing your contract, that could be completing an event. And after doing that, we feel obligated to stay on the map until the timer hits under 5 minutes. And I'm just throwing out an arbitrary time, but the notion still stands. We feel like there's more to be done on the map. It's like, dude, no, you fulfilled your win condition. You all are still in one piece. Go ahead and get up out of there, reset, and then spawn back in. But sometimes we think we have to just hang out, and guess what that does? That leads to a greater opportunity of us losing all the loot that we worked so hard to acquire, of us failing that contract, because what if that contract is one that requires you to exfil with an item or just exfil to complete it? And sometimes it has to do with none of those things. It has nothing to do with the win condition. It just has to do with killing the morale. Like imagine, again, you guys take out 2 teams off of spawn, you're feeling great, the win condition was met, and you guys are just hanging out, running around like a chicken with his head cut off. Next thing you know, you all run into a boss, the boss puts you all down, and you all lost everything. I think situations like that hurt the most because it's like, dude, we could have left 10 minutes ago. We would have been A-okay, but we chose not to, right? Or you all run into that last team on the map, and that last team is the most cracked team ever, and they eviscerate y'all. Again, a situation that could have been avoided had y'all just exfilled, reset, and came back in. Slightly piggybacking off of a point I made earlier, and again, I think this is all something we do, whether if it's consciously or it's unconsciously, and that's splitting from your team completely. Now, I don't mean playing a bit separated in one singular POI. I mean splitting away from your team completely. Like your team is at one POI and you are completely by yourself at another POI. In a game like Marathon, that is completely foolish because not only can you get rocked by an enemy team, but the enemy AI is crazy. Like imagine you run into a commander by yourself, a fresh respawn of the UESC soldiers, and it's just you there. Man, there's a good chance they may probably put you down, and your teammates that are in another POI, they may not come back to revive you. Do not let you be solo queuing either. If you are solo queuing, there have been times where I was foolish enough to do that. My homies never came back to get me at all. They exfilled on their own, and I was the only one SOL. And I'm gonna tell you something, that hurts, yo. Now, if they are admirable people and they do try to come and revive you, imagine they pull up at the same time as another team pulls up because the other team heard the gunfire of the UESC soldiers. Now you just put your teammates in a 2v3 situation and you are praying to God they somehow pull it off. And again, if you are solo queuing, there's probably a good chance they won't pull it off because there's no team cohesion or coordination. So you all just got clapped because you decided to play lone wolf in a game that is not about being a lone wolf unless you are in solos. Don't be that individual, please. This next beginner mistake is something I alluded to earlier in the video when I was talking about kits, and it's that you should not be running high value or expensive kits before consistency. So for example, your first raid or two of the night, you should not be running high value items. I don't care how much you warmed up on aim labs. I don't care how great you're feeling. Don't do it. You should always jump in initially with a free or with a budget kit to make sure you are fully acclimated to Marathon. Now, when the day comes that we get a training range or something of equal equivalence, then maybe it could be okay to jump in with a higher value kit to start. But until that day comes, I wouldn't even think twice about it, because all you're going to do is go in cold. You're going to get into a gunfight. You're not going to be able to hit your shots. You're going to be absolutely livid when your teammates can't clutch it up and you lost everything you worked so hard to acquire. That's going to set a terrible precedent for the rest of the night, and honestly, you might turn the game off after that. So don't even set yourself up for that failure, okay? Now, this following beginner mistake, this is one that you should not fall succumb to at all, especially with the precedent I set in this video, and that is going in without no win condition. This is when you and your homies or you solo queue and just jump in with no rhyme or reason. You don't have an objective that you want to accomplish. You're just on the map just frolicking. When you don't queue in with intention in this game, you are literally trying to play with one hand behind your back because you have no direction. Since you have no direction, your your focus is not going to be where it needs to be, your awareness is not going to be top tier, and you are going to be frolicking in the field ready to get picked off. And guess what? More times than not, you will get picked off. So make sure there is always a win condition set. And more so from a mental standpoint, checking the box of a win condition feels great. And if you don't have that set and you are just out there frolicking, doing God knows what, even if you win PvP engagements, even if you complete this or you do that, you don't quite feel satiated from it because, again, that objective was never set pre-raid. Sometimes win conditions do slightly shift in a raid. I will be fully transparent, but if you're paying it no mind, then it's kind of like, what's the point, you know? So let's make sure we got those win conditions set, please. And lastly, I'm gonna rapid fire a couple things that will get you erased quickly that I do not want you all to do or fall succumb to. Let's make sure we are not treating AI like decoration, because AI gunfights are an ammo sink, they are a heal sink, and they draw a ton of attention. Instead, let's be smart, let's knife AI combatants whenever we can, and try to be as conservative as possible with our trigger finger so we don't draw a lot of attention to ourselves. To piggyback here, taking loud PvE fights when you are in bad spots is the last thing you want to do. So for example, if you're rotating into a particular POI and you run into a few UESC combatants, just letting off, laying on that trigger finger out in the open where the opposition can position themselves in that respective POI to look over at you, knowing you're out in the open with no cover, that's terrible. You're just asking to get put down. So the idea is to create the least amount of noise as possible so you can always have a leg up. Following that, fighting for pride instead of profit or survival is absolutely foolish. Don't do it. To give you all an example, fighting for pride is knowing you're in a compromised position, you see the opposition run by you, and you shoot at them anyway. In some cases, it's more important to just let that enemy team run on by so you can have the chance to gather yourself, heal up, revive your teammates, do whatever you need to do. Why in the world are you shooting at the opposition when one of your teammates is fully eliminated, the other one is in the down but not out state, and you have no shield? Don't do that. That's pride talking. No, defeat the pride within, live to fight another day, and get your homies back up. And by you getting the homies back up, maybe that enemy team hasn't repositioned and they don't know you're there yet. Now you all can reposition and you all can take a fair gunfight, or a gunfight that's going to be more advantageous to you all. And lastly, slightly building off of that point, make sure the moment you feel it in your gut, when that fight is no longer worth it, you have ran out of heals, your ammo is running low, and you and your homies have an avenue to escape, disengagement should take priority there in that instance. Again, do not let that pride get you put down. You want to survive. Now, is there a chance that you all will get chased? Possibly, but let's pretend the thing that separates you from the enemy team are freshly spawned UESC soldiers. Now you have the perfect opportunity to get away, to find heals, heal up, and maybe you can re-engage in the future, or get out of there, get to an exfil, reset, and go back in and enjoy your following raid. Again, if there is no point to continue fighting, then don't fight. And beautiful people, that is going to conclude this video. I just talked my tail off, but I hope it brought immense value to you all. If you all walk away with one or two things, let's make sure we walk away with always setting a win condition and always doing everything in our power to progress so that we can continue to get narrative beats, we can continue to make our runners more powerful, and so that we can enjoy Marathon the way that I believe the Bungie devs want us to do. If I wasted your time in any capacity, I sincerely apologize. That was not my intention. But if this video brought any semblance of value to you, please do me the biggest favor of letting me know by liking the video. Comment down below if you have any further questions, thoughts, or concerns. Hype the video if you know how to spend your hype points, if you have any hype points. I'll be honest, I don't even know how to do that, but if you know how to do that, please do that. Your boy would appreciate it so much. But even if you don't do any of that, do know that I still love you with everything in me. I appreciate you all so much for coming and watching, and I will catch you all in the next one.